Hello and welcome to Buckmore Park for round 6 of the F100 Sprint Series. I'm your commentator, Anthony Jordan. Joining me in the commentary box alongside me is Ben Topless. Ben, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back here. I was here this time last year commentating with Jake Sanson, and yeah, slightly different weather than on that particular day in history, but yeah, nevertheless, can't dampen the spirit of the F100 paddock.
Good word to use there, damp. It is describes today's weather very, very well. I've only been here 2 times. The first time was for Buckmore Park's 24 hours. This is the second time here, and the weather is exactly the same. Exactly the same weather that we've had. I've never been here when it's nice and dry, sunny, so I'm sure they do get sunny weather. We're quite far down south, aren't we?
Yeah, they do sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I've been here a couple of times when we've raced with Club 100, and this track is very hard to drive in the wets. It's very narrow, and so it's really hard to pick a wet line. It's hard to drive on a different line. And we've seen that in the practice sessions this morning, particularly on the downhill section. Some of the drivers scrabbling around trying to find different lines. Some taking more curb than others, some taking a wider line than others. So yeah, you'll see that on the live stream here today.
Oh, definitely so. And this corner that we're currently looking at now, this has been the main culprit of all the accidents that we've seen. We've seen some small, just some casual spins, but we've seen some go quite hard into the barrier as well. So we saw, I think, one of the karts, I couldn't quite see it. It went quite hard into the wall. Wheel came off as well, but again, we weren't too sure if the wheel came off before he hit the wall there, were we?
No, we weren't. And yeah, we've seen a few culprits of reliability in the session. We saw Alistair Topless go off on the top part of the circuit. It turns out that was an engine seizure, and you may well see a few of those today. Reliability is not a strong point for these F100 karts. They're very highly tuned, very finely tuned, and so you do often see a lot of these seizures where you see the rear wheels lock up and the drivers go off. So if you do see them go off, it may not necessarily be just a spin. It might be reliability as well.
Well, that and the fact that some of these karts are, or the chassis themselves and engines are more than 20 years old, aren't they? So, yeah, the reliability is probably not one of them. So, yeah, but onto that, we've got quite a few races to get out for today, obviously, in terms of the order of what's going out first. Maxed Out is going to be out first on circuit, hopefully out very soon. Then it'll be 100 UK, F100 Pre, 89 and 95. Then we'll move over to F100 Aqua and Dart Racing. They'll be out in the same heat. And then we'll finish the first heats off with F100 Pre-2000. And then it all repeats itself for Heat 2, Heat 3, and then we'll move on to the finals later on this evening. Now, of course, we don't have any qualifying results. There is no qualifying. Grids are random while they're out there, so we don't know who's going to be where, are we? Is there an order of where they would go out usually?
Sometimes they tend to do it in championship order and then reverse championship order for the first 2 heats. But no, I think the grids are fully randomised for the heats today.
So that should mix it up a bit.
It should do, yes. Particularly with these conditions, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly that. And, of course, all of these, I suspect, are going to be running the wet tyre while they're out there. No one's out on slicks in these, are they?
No, not yet. I mean, at the moment, it's coming down. There's sort of like a fine mist that's coming down on the track at the moment. We did see a few drivers venture out onto the circuit on the slick tyres, but it's knowing that crossover point that's just so difficult. You reach that point where the track's not dry or wet, it's just greasy.
Yeah.
And so you can either trash your wet tyres or risk spinning off on the slick tyres.
Yeah, it is definitely a fine line, I would say, whether or not to choose those. So, yeah, no, we'll definitely have to see that. Well, in terms of what we've got going on for things today, I believe F100, a little charity thing that they've got going. They've got a GoFundMe for, what was the reason for the GoFundMe?
They had a GoFundMe page because they wanted to fund Alpha Live, for one.
Ah.
And because we've got another category introduced, as you say, maxed out, the first group that's going to be out on circuit, a Rotax grid that's been introduced for Buckmore Park. So the GoFundMe page, yeah, it was just another way to try and fund this series.
Yeah, okay. And there's been so many donations already, so a massive thank you to everyone so far who has donated on that. If you do want to do it, head over to the F100 Facebook page, and the GoFundMe page is on there. That really appreciate your support. Of course, so we're just on the lunch break at the moment, aren't we? I think the karts are just, I think some of them are starting to line up on the dummy grid in the pit lane now, but they're all, I want to finish my bacon roll, I think is the action out there.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused. We've got one kart that's about to be put down onto the grid. As I understand it, there was going to be another driver's briefing before the races, but I can't see anyone congregated down by the Parc Fermé, which is where we usually have it.
Well, a good sign is the marshals are back in their marshal posts, so that's a sign that racing's going to get going very shortly. But yeah, we're tucked away on the other side of the circuit, miles away from the paddock, miles away from the pit lane, so we can't actually see what's going on. So yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult for us to see. And there's a big tree in the way as well, we can't see.
Yeah, exactly. We are in the warm and dry, though, so I am grateful for that. I'm willing
Yes.
to have that compromise, I think.
Yes, again, thanks to all the marshals out here as well. They're outside braving the weather, and of course to our lovely cameramen as well, who are going to provide some excellent shots for us. They're tucked away. I was speaking to a couple of them. They've got their one-piece karting wetsuits on, covering themselves because the rain is not nice. It has been on and off, and as you say, at the moment now it is just a fine mist. It's that, as some people like to call it, really wet rain.
That sort of rain that you have to squint for. That
Yes.
You have to sort of like scrumple your face for.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never had a wetsuit that has ever been waterproof, ever. I don't think out on a kart.
That's why it's called a wetsuit. There we go. Other than that, it would be a dry suit. But anyway, in terms of championship points at the moment, obviously we've already had 5 rounds at the moment. Last round being at Buckmore Park now. The closest that we can see out there in terms of the battle would definitely be for the lead of the pre-2000 driver standings, and that is Joe Scory and Gary Watling as well. The number 2 and the number 5. They're first and second at the moment, separated by much less than 100 points at the moment, and there's 250 points up for grabs in this round.
Absolutely, yeah. 50 points for the 3 heats, and then 100 points for the final. So it's all to play for in the pre-2000. Joe Scory had a disaster here last year, had a number of incidents and engine failures. And if we look at the timing screen, which we have right in front of us, in the final practice session, Gary Watling was fastest, ahead of Adam Wardell, who's been looking pretty handy today as well.
Well, he's 4th in the championship at the moment. He's got 684 points, so he's some 200 points down. But if first, second, third don't score any points, he's looking good.
Yeah,
it might be a bit fine, but yeah.
in all, I think it's probably down to the top 2.
Yes,
for the
I suspect so.
It's only 50 points between them.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly that. So keep an eye on that, definitely for the pre-2000 driver standings. Joe Scory and Gary Watling, they're going to be ones to keep an eye on. Then we've got the heavy driver standings as well. They're separated by, let's say, just over 100 points for the top 2. That's Stuart Guess and Toby Sinclair there. But again, they're quite close at the top as well. And then the rest of the fields generally tend to be quite open up, don't they?
They do, yeah. In the pre-95, we've got Alistair Topless leading the championship, and it would be perhaps a bigger deal if Ashley Curtis was here, but unfortunately he's unable to be here. And Leon Dolby is 160 points behind, just over. So, yeah, that one's more or less wrapped up, but I don't want to say that because he is my brother. And I don't want to jinx it.
Anything could happen. And then we, of course, go to the pre-89 standings as well. They're pretty sealed and done, aren't they? So Nick Watkins, he's got 840 points, second in the championship. Mark Bennett, 180. I think he's got a good lead at the moment.
I think he does.
Yeah,
yes.
I think he's pretty settled on that one. The junior F100 driver standings as well. We've got Alfie Salas. He's got 500 points at the total at the moment compared to second place, Baron Morris Kent. He's got 380. So again, quite a big, extensive gap there. So yeah, probably signed and done already in that one.
Yeah, and the pair of them racing in pre-2000 today as well, so we'll be able to see what they have to offer. Yeah, Glenn Rayland in the 100 UK has got more than 100 points lead in the 100 UK over James Lovell, so that one, there's still a chance that that can change, but if he just has a consistent day, then I think he'll seal that championship.
Kind of, yeah, that should sort him out. No, good stuff. And, of course, the picture you can see there, that's the clubhouse here at Buckmore Park, and we're just at the top left-hand side of that. We're tucked away in and some darkened windows, so you probably won't see us. But yeah, we're just there. That's where we are. Nice, cozy, warm, not outside in this rain. And yeah, some of the other shots that we can see out there, there's quite a bit of standing water, I would say, out on this circuit. And drivers have definitely got to stay away from those painted edges as well, because I suspect that's very slippery and it's covered in wet leaves as well. So not ideal conditions.
Yeah, we have seen a few drivers spinning off on that painted section this morning on the bottom part of the circuit. But yeah, the main bits of standing water appear to be on the top half of the circuit, and that is the one that takes the longest to dry. You have the trees overhanging on the top part of the circuit. So, yeah, you expect that to get quite slippery.
I suspect that's going to be a clinching point out there. So, as you can see, some of the drivers getting ready on the dummy grid there in the pit lane. They're just down on the bottom section of the circuit. Now, of course, very, very nice circuit here, Buckmore Park. And the first time I came here, I realised how undulating it is. Every time I look at it on a map, it looks flat. And then you get here and it's up and down hills. But we are going to be going into the first race very shortly. As I say, they will be coming out in just a moment. Now they're lining up a paddock bend at the moment. That's the corner they're going to come out. Turn 7 on the circuit, and then of course they will head into the first turn 1 and the fast sweeping right-hander. That's the first one. Here's the grids that we got. Talk us through it, Ben.
Yeah, Will Barnes in the 37, starting from pole position, ahead of Elliot Rice and Jack Bartholomew. One hell of a guest entrant for this round, ahead of Lewis Hodson Brown in the 35 car. Then we've got Carl Bryant, Kieran Ives, Lee McCrumlish, and Drew Holmes rounding out the top 8.
A little further down, 9th place, you've got Sam Smithson, and then it's Oliver Appleby in 10th place. Stephen Crow in 11th place with Steve Groves in 12th place. Miles Apps, he's going to be 13th on the grid. That's a lucky for some. And then Charlie Turner in 14th. Dean Horlock in 15th. And rounding out 16th place is Josh Patherow there. So that'd be the 85 car. 17th place, Ben Avery, and then it's James Firmer in 18th place. Rounding out your grid of 19 karts in this one, I should say, is Hugh Clearland there, and the 93. So 19 karts, not the biggest grid that we've got out there, but still a fairly extensive one.
Absolutely, yeah. It's quite amazing what they've been able to put. Yeah, it's quite amazing what they've been able to put together in such a short space of time. It's quite a large grid of these Rotax karts, and yes, we're very grateful to them. But as you can see on the screen, there's tarmac runoff as you come down the hill at Buckmore Park. When I first came here, that was sort of hatchings, that was grass. So yeah, the circuit's changed a lot in recent times.
That's lovely. So we're going to head now to our first grid of the day, and that's going to be the maxed out class. So here we go, heading out onto the circuit. The first race of the day. This is the maxed out class, of course, the Rotax class that are going to be heading out there. And they're going to be warming themselves up as much as they can. It is still very cold out there. I got out of the car when I arrived here, could see my breath straight away, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a cold day.
Yeah, there's only so much tyre temperature you can actually get on one of these outlaps, so I imagine they'll probably do more than one outlap. You can see the Rotax heavies are separated from the Rotax lights. They've left sort of a few corners, maybe half a lap, and they are quite spread out at the moment, as you can see on your screens now. So that will give them just an opportunity to get a little bit more heat into their tyres.
No, excellent stuff. And when you see the timing tower appear on your screen, you will see the identification of the different classes of drivers. So you've got the Rotax lights. They'll be identified by the blue number on your timing screen. And then, of course, the heavies out there, they'll be represented by the green tags. And you can see those as well with the numbers actually on the kart as well. So you can see there at the front, Will Barnes and Elliot Rice. They're going to be starting at the front row for this one, just behind them as well. Jack Bartholomew and Lewis Hodson Brown. They're going to be your second two as well. And you can see the lights there just lining up. A few fiddly of the engines there, I'd see, as we head round up the hill to start race 1 of the day. The revs rise and the flag drops, and we're going to get going for race 1 of the day. And you can see there how tricky it is under these conditions to try and get these cars stopped into turn 1. But it's an absolutely fantastic start from all. Couple running wide as they all get round turn 1 very well.
Yeah, but we're about to come into the hairpin here. This is a potential crash zone. They seem to have been able to get round okay. but they are going a little bit wide. Some drivers trying to take liberties, one of them onto the curb big time there, and they're coming 3 wide off the corner as they head down the hill. They've got to sort that out.
Definitely so, and that looked like the 47 of Kieran Ives getting involved in that tangle, so definitely have to keep an eye on that one as they scream down this hill now, and a warning going out to someone. And there's the 37 with a spin, 37 being Will Barnes, I believe. That was our second place man, and he's already down the order quite successfully as well.
Yeah, Kieran Ives, I think, trying to get a bit greedy into the first corner. He tried to go around the outside as we see him move there going up the hill. That was pretty opportunistic from the number 7, I believe it was.
Yeah, and there is the 61. That is Charlie Turner. He's under pressure from the 35 of Lewis Hodgson Brown. Now, they are having a very close scrap out there. That is the battle for third place, some 3 seconds down from the race leaders at the moment. The 26 there just behind. That's Drew Holmes. He's also 3 seconds down, but he's going to want to have a go as well. There's the number 7. Now, I can't see the 7 on my timing screen, which is a bit confusing. So I'm not quite sure who that is, but I'm going to go and say it's probably Miles Apes, Apps, I think it is. Not Apes, there's no E. But there we go. But yeah, so only 6.5 minutes remaining of this one. 8-minute heats plus 1 lap. So not a lot of time they've got in these conditions.
No, Miles Apps getting the job done pretty early on, making those big overtakes that he needs to do. And you can afford to make that move into the second hairpin because you naturally take quite a wide line going through there, so you can afford to stick your nose at the inside there.
Can imagine there's a spin in the background. It's the 11 of the lightweight class. That's Lee. That's quite a...
Bumper's off.
Yeah, bumper has come off. That's not a good one. Yeah, his rear bumper's dragging on the floor, so I suspect he's going to probably get pulled in for that, so that doesn't fall off in front of another car. So massive shame there for the number 11. And mechanical flag, yes, has come out for that driver there. So that's a massive shame for here. Here's our race leader, 74 and 89. This is Elliot Rice and Jack Bartholomew. First and second place, 5 minutes to go of the heat, and they are very close out there, battling around these tricky conditions here at Buckmore Park.
Yeah, Jack Bartholomew really taking an interesting line going through that difficult off-camber hairpin there, hooking a wheel on the inside as he came off the corner just to try and grip the kart up a little bit more. It's easy to slide wide on that corner, so it's a good line that he's taking there.
Yeah, it is a good line, and again, they're not breaking away too much from each other. They are still sticking with it, and you can see how much there is leaning into the corner, cocking that rear wheel up at the back, really showing how much he's pushing that kart and taking, as you say, lots of curb there to just hook that kart in.
Yeah, rough curves here. It's easy to damage the chassis here, but it's worth it in these wet conditions for the lap time alone. Number 74 really starting to come under pressure here. Is he going to try and move going into the hairpin? Not quite close enough.
No, not quite close enough that time. He is the fastest driver out on the circuit, though, is our second place man, Jack. Apparently there we got a wheel off at turn number 1. We have indeed. I can't see who that is.
It's one of the heavy drivers.
It is.
See out of our commentary box window.
Yeah, but back with our 2 leaders here. As we've got a bit of a no signal there. The weather playing havoc with the cameras here today. The rain is starting to come down a little bit more now. But I can see that the driver at turn 1 is okay. He's out the kart. It's just, the kart looking a little bit more worse for wear. 4 minutes remaining on this one. You can see the yellow flags out in that sector. But still, our race leaders are battling away closely. A little bit of a gap there in 4th place there. The number 35, Lewis Hodgson Brown. Lots of curb, getting that kart very sideways.
Yeah, Jack Bartholomew is just taking that little bit more speed going into the corner, and it's sending him a little bit wide, but that's okay because there's plenty of grip on the outside of those hairpins, and the drivers behind really struggling for rear-end grip as they come off onto the start-finish straight.
I can imagine. I've never actually driven a kart on wet tyres before. I've only ever driven on slicks, and even when it's been wet, it's been slicks as well. So, yeah, I've never driven on wet tyres. So I have no idea what it's like. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's more grippy, but it varies from tyre manufacturer, to be honest. These Mojo wets generally are quite difficult. They're quite understeery, I would say, and you need quite high tyre pressures, as you do with most wet tyres, but the Vega wets, I would say, are slightly more grippy as Elliot Rice pulls away. Yeah,
it looks like he is opening a gap. It was 4.5 tenths. When he last crossed the line. They're coming up towards the line now. Again, just up the hill around that fast sweeping left-hander. And there's a spin there in the second to last corner. Who is that? That's the number 7. Yeah, that is indeed. So massive shame for him, doing incredibly well, and he's now going to be falling down that order. So massive shame for Miles Apps there.
Yeah, he was doing well, but he just carried a bit too much speed into that corner and just planted his foot on the throttle maybe a little bit too hard, and it was really hard for him to be able to catch.
Yeah, that's James Farmer that you just saw there getting out of the way. And here's a replay of what happened to the number 7. So here he comes in. So much curb, and you can see, yeah, too much curb. Absolutely unsettles the car. Almost nearly got air, and yeah, straight out. And almost collects another kart as he rejoins. So definitely not the most ideal thing. So there's the 35 of Lewis Hodson Brown. He is now 4th place. And that's Charlie Turner just in front of him. And I think we'll head back to our race leaders with only 1 minute 50 seconds to go. We definitely want to see where they are. Now, personal best time went to Jack Bartholomew on that last lap. Again, he's only about a 10th slower than first place man Elliot Rice. He's fast at the moment, 51.223. And we should hopefully be seeing them any moment.
Yeah, as you say, Elliot Rice with the fastest lap at the moment, and he was just able to pull away a couple of laps ago, and as we rejoin the lead battle, and he does seem to have it under control for the moment. Gap's 0.6 of a second where it was last time out. You just see breaking into that hairpin, he's just got the confidence, and if he can just keep it on the road, I think he can have this one.
Anything could happen, though, in motorsport with only 1 minute remaining. And, of course, these laps are 51 seconds. So they're going to cross the line now. They are on their penultimate lap now. So they're not the last lap. They've still got one more lap to go. And there's the 80 going for a cheeky move down the inside. That is, of course, that's Ben Avery. He was looking at Drew Holmes there, I believe. And, of course, 2 different classes there. He's one of the heavyweight classes. So not really racing for points, but, of course, any position you can gain is a position you can gain, isn't it?
It was a bit of an ambitious move going into that corner there. It was a bit late, I would say. And that's pretty close looking. That's between the leaders. They just caught up to a back marker, and Jack Bartholomew suddenly closed up to the back of him again.
He has indeed, hasn't he? So, yeah, that gap has really closed down, and that was someone going straight on there, the 37, Will Barnes. Looks like he went straight on at the hairpin. Yeah, you can see the gap's massively open now. But back with our race leaders. They're going up the hill now with 16 seconds to go. Now it's going to be their last lap. It will be checkered flag this time for these guys as they next come round. It's Elliot Rice and Jack Bartholomew. Who's is going to take the win this time as they go around the hairpin? It's the closest they've been so far.
Yeah, kart going slowly as on the bottom part of the circuit. But yeah, it looks like Elliot Rice has just got it in hand. We'll be able to see him coming into shot in just a moment. Jack Bartholomew not quite close enough to make a big lunge at this point, but we'll see.
Yeah, there we go. So we can see them now coming into Paddock Bend. They're going to be coming up the hill now, the last couple of corners to go. And there's a move down the inside, down for the 89 of Jack Bartholomew. He gets it done. What a perfectly timed move down the inside of Elliot Rice on the last lap and the last couple of corners. They're coming up the hill now of Cafe Curve. Here they are into shot. The checker flag will come out. And, oh, no, it's last lap now. So there we go. So the timer finished, but now it's last lap. So there we go. There's me getting my times wrong. So now it's last lap, and here's the replay of that move.
Yeah, you just see he got a great run coming off that corner, and, yeah, you can go for a lunge like that, but he's got to be able to get it stopped going into that off-camera corner. Otherwise, you'll slide off wide, and then you'll just lose that place again.
Yes, and I now must remember that there it's 8 minutes plus 1 lap. So I forgot that, didn't I? So there we go. But it's the first race, and there's plenty more for me to get it right. So back with the race leaders. Now it's the last lap. The checker flag will be out this lap, and the 18...